Hello, welcome to yet another episode of Keeping Up with the Greens. My name remains Prince Nyako. Today on our Build It Right series, we are here to talk about land acquisition. I have our able lawyer here, Lawyer Ima.
Thank you, Prince. My name is Emmanuel Sakite Matekole. I'm a real estate lawyer and I'm the managing partner of M&O Law Consults. I've assisted clients like the Greens to conduct diligence on land they intend to acquire. I've prepared legal documents for them, and I've also assisted them to secure their interest in land by obtaining the requisite consents and registering their interest in those lands.
Thank you, lawyer. Before we go into it, lawyer, one thing that keeps bugging me.
Yes, sir.
On issues of leases. If I buy a land and I have a lease of say 50 or 90 years, what happens after that 90 years?
That's a very good question, and that question keeps coming up. So essentially, if you have a leasehold interest of 50 to 99 years, essentially what that means is that somebody has an allodial interest.
Yes.
An allodial interest is an interest that exists indefinitely. It never expires. So what you ought to do is that you ought to put in an option to renew clause in your existing lease.
Oh, wow.
That's how you secure your interest in the land.
Thank you so much, lawyer. Before we go into it, I told you today's episode is going to be very, very entertaining and also educative. Let's get right into it.
Thank you. So as I indicated earlier, I assist my clients conduct due diligence on property. I prepare legal documents for my clients, some of whom are developers, and I assist them secure their interest in land by obtaining the relevant consents and approvals from the requisite authorities and assisting them to register their title. So when I say due diligence, I mean conducting searches at the Lands Commission to confirm, one, who owns the land, two, whether there's any encumbrance on the land. So an encumbrance is, say, the land has been mortgaged. If the land has been mortgaged, then that's an encumbrance, and that's a red flag. Number two, I also recommend that a search is conducted at the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. This is the authority responsible for zoning. So every area in Ghana is supposed to have a planning scheme, and this planning scheme designates areas as residential, commercial, agricultural, civic, cultural, etc. So if, for instance, you be given a grant and the grant is for a residential or a dwelling place, but the land has been zoned for agricultural purposes, then clearly that grant is void because it's contrary to the zoning of the area. And then I also advise my clients to do a search at the Office of the Administrator of Stool Lands. They are responsible for collecting ground rent on behalf of stool and families. So if the land is stool land or family land, and what I mean by a land is stool land or family land, the allodial owner, who is the owner who has an indefinite interest in the property, meaning that their interest does not come to an end, they collect ground rent on the land. So any lease that you are given, or even a developer, ought to ensure that ground rent is paid to the Office of Administrator of Stool Lands annually if the land is stool land or family land. And then another search that I highly recommend is a high court search to find out if there's litigation on the land. Then I highly also recommend that the developer or the purchaser ask the lawyer to do a title report. This is a legal opinion in writing indicating or stating or expressing the lawyer's view on why the lawyer thinks that the property is good and unencumbered and recommends that the purchaser purchase same. The title report serves a number of purposes. For me, the primary purpose is that if, for instance, the matter ends up in court and you end up with a lawyer who was not the lawyer who represented you in the land acquisition process, you can tender the legal opinion in evidence for the judge to see the process that the lawyer went through before advising that you purchase the land. Then there's another search that I recommend, which was introduced by the Land Act, which was passed in 2020. This is a customary land secretariat search. The customary land secretariat is supposed to be set up by families, clans, stools. It's a new registry that has been introduced under the Land Act. It's supposed to complement what the Lands Commission does, and they are supposed to report to the Lands Commission, I believe, every 2 months or 3 months with all records that they've captured. But essentially, the Customary Land Secretariat does the same job as the Lands Commission. They record the interests of all those who have purchased land in that area, and also register their interest in land. And they submit this information to the Lands Commission after every 2 to 3 months. So essentially, these are the main searches in respect of my due diligence. Then I also recommend highly that all legal documents are prepared by a lawyer, and this is not because I'm saying so, but that is the law. The law says that it's only a legal practitioner that can prepare a conveyance. So for instance, and also the lawyer must be in good standing. So a lawyer who has been suspended cannot prepare a conveyance, and it's imperative that whoever prepares that conveyance must have their name and address endorsed on the face of the document, on the front page. If the lawyer is suspended and during that period that lawyer prepares a conveyance, then that conveyance would be void because it was prepared by a lawyer that is not qualified to do so. So this is a very important requirement.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.